Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, HaKodash, double honor city apostles of great millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is your brother Ayash Kabar from the GMS Virginia camp, coming at you with another lesson and article that I pray that you find edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. And there's this movie I really liked. As a matter of fact, it's probably one of my top 10 movies that I actually enjoy. And the name of it is called The Usual Suspects, where this Gimp was the villain, but nobody knew he was the ultimate villain. And there's a scene in the movie where this character was played by the actor Kevin Spacey, who's I'm not even gonna get into it, but the character is played by this actor named Kevin Spacey, and he made a statement in the movie that was very fitting. And what he said was, the greatest trick that the devil ever did was convincing the world that he didn't exist. And that rings true on so many levels, that this devil, Esau Edom, has convinced the world that he's a beacon of light. And the scriptures tell you that. Satan has transformed himself into a beacon of light. Whereas, he's actually, and I was paraphrasing that, I was paraphrasing that scripture, but this devil has actually convinced the world that he can't do no wrong. To the point where people are starting to see that he has done wrong on every level. And a lot of nations have seen it but couldn't do anything about it. And now other nations are seeing it and are able to do something about it. But over here in Babylon the Great, aka America, the people are just beat down to the point where resistance is futile. At least at this point. And Salakia. And this devil's on his last leg. He's at his last hoorah. To have you people think that what he has for you is beneficial to you. And that leads me up to this point of AI. AI is a system that was developed by the wicked to help the wicked in times where the population is very low. AI is God, where it's going to take its marching orders from. Because this devil has a plan to depopulate the planet. He has a plan to bring the population down to a very small number from where it's at now. And in order for him to maintain, a sense of government, a sense of what he has grown accustomed to, he has to put a system in place that can do the thinking for him. And here you have AI. AI is a system that's going to remove jobs, take jobs from people that already have certain types of jobs. It's going to make decisions based on algorithms that were programmed within the system. Ultimately, the wicked is programming a brain to do its thinking for itself, which is going to be straight wickedness at the end of the day. So there's an article here out of the Nextford University, and the article reads, How Artificial Intelligence Will Change the World. And this is dated June 29, 2025, and it's a 10-minute read. And going on with the article, well, because a lot of people aren't going to understand what's going on once certain things fall into place. In particularly, this lesson is directed towards you Israelites, you Jakes. And I'm going to break this precept out before I read the article. And it's out of the NLT. And it reads, the Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 22. How long, you simpletons, will you insist on being simple-minded? How long will you mockers relish in your mocking? And how long will you fools hate knowledge? And all of those things are true for you simple-minded Jakes. You don't like knowledge, or the knowledge that is given to you by the prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And you scoffers are still somewhat scoffing, but not as much, because some of you have actually started to see the things that our apostles, bishops, and elders have been warning you about decades ago, happening right before your eyes now. And you are just, and in that, there are just some simpletons that just can't believe that things will go the way that the prophet said that it would go, which will cause you not to believe in what you see happening right before your eyes. But nonetheless, prophecies are taking place, and these intermediaries, or should I say these fillers, are happening with a bigger picture in mind, and that is the NWO. And for you newcomers, NWO simply stands for, well, it's an acronym for New World Order. So artificial intelligence will play a major part in this thing. And it reads, how artificial intelligence will change the world. Will AI help the world or hurt it? Well, it depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from the perspective of the designer, Salakia, if you're looking at it from the perspective of the designer, it's there to help him complete certain tasks. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of the end user, or the person that AI will be affecting, then it's going to hurt them. So there's a contrast going on here. So reading on with the article, like any controversial subject, there will always be people who are for it and those who are against it. Artificial intelligence is no different. In fact, as new AI tools are introduced and the news around them grows, so the division between the two camps will grow within it. And you'll always have this dichotomy of good, bad, wicked, righteous, left, right, red, blue, Democrat, Republican, this, that, or the other, men against women, hate, love. You'll always have this 2 and 2 dichotomy going on in the world. You'll have some people who are for a certain thing and certain people who are against a certain thing. And what you'll find is those people who are for a certain thing sees the benefits of it more than the disadvantages of it. And then those who are against a thing see the disadvantages more than the advantages of it. And these two dichotomies are constantly at war with it. with a in particular system. Reading on with the article, many market research analysts say that AI has the potential to bring about numerous positive changes in society. Again, going into what I said, those who are for it will see the positive and less of the negative, and those who are against it will see more of the negative and less of the positive. Introducing enhanced productivity, improved healthcare, increased access to education, but we need to adapt right now. Others will say, mostly those working in the human work types of jobs that are manually repetitive, that AI and robotics is a disruptive force, and it comes to the future of jobs. It merely serves to steal jobs. So here it is, you have these people who are looking at it from a negative perspective, saying, yeah, AI is here to take my job. I'll give you a case in point. I work with robots. I deal with robots. I program robots, some robots, I should say. And I see the introduction of new robotic systems that are being incorporated in my company that I work for as being more intricate in doing more functions that, let's say, a person who was hired to drive a forklift would do, or a person who would gather certain materials would do. Well, now you have robotic systems that can go into the warehouse, go and grab a certain material that this person needs, brings it to him and set it out for him. Whereas before it took maybe 2 or 3 so-called forklift drivers to do the job. Well, that's having to pay 2 or 3 forklift drivers. That's also having to pay the medical expenses of these 2 or 3 forklift drivers. Essentially it's expensive having forklift drivers as opposed to having one robot to do the job of 3 forklift drivers. That's what I'm seeing in my work environment, and another thing that I'm seeing in my work environment is less people working on robotic systems, which will be at some point a need for, but inevitably that too will turn into a situation where you'll have robots taking care of other robots, if it ever gets to that point. But Lord's will, Yahabashim Yahushua, comes way before that even becomes a reality. But that's the direction that, being in the spirit, I see it going in. So, going on with the article. But we need to adapt right now. Others will say mostly those working in the human work type jobs that are manually repetitive, that AI and robotics is a disruptive force and it will come to the future of jobs. It merely serves to steal jobs. But robots and AI technologies can and will create a great many new vocations and help solve complex problems. It makes our daily lives easier and more convenient. And that takes me back to another movie that I saw made by Pixar Animation. I forget the name of the movie, but essentially it's about a robot that, WALL-E. The name of the movie was called WALL-E, WALLE, I believe that's how you spell it. But there's a scene also in this animated movie where the people were so out of overweight and just like blah, that they depended upon the system to take care of them. Here they were laid back in their recliners or their chairs or whatever, drinking whatever it is that they were drinking, eating whatever it is that they were eating out in space, which will never happen because they can't get past the Van Halen belt. But they like to imagine these things on what their utopia would be. And AI is a very intricate part of their utopian society, you know. But, I digress, going back into the article. Our daily lives easier and more convenient. Yeah, a lot of these people look at AI as being a reliever for them, Very soon, AI will remove office jobs that office personnel would typically do. It already got rid of a lot of jobs where, you call in for technical support. Well, now AI handles that. And it has become so complex that you actually think that you're talking to a person when in fact you're actually talking to a artificial intelligence system that's learning with each phone call on how to deal with a in particular situation, in particular person or whatever. It is a system that is learning, and that's what they want, especially when they do this big reset and turn everything back on. The personnel who are working in government will no longer be needed. You will no longer need a person, to work at the income tax office because AI will handle that and AI will answer all their questions. You will no longer need a person to make, decisions for the people. Why? Because AI will be that mechanism that's put in place to make the decisions for them based on the rationale of the programmer. And all of this is dependent upon the programmer and what the leaders of the earth tells the programmer how they want their AI to operate. So, the system is wicked within itself, even though it can be used for good. You got wicked men programming this thing. There's nothing wrong with AI in itself, but when the programmer is wicked, it promotes a wicked, how can I say this? It promotes the wickedness mindset, or it promotes the wickedness spirit within its programming algorithm. I'll say that. How will AI affect jobs and the economy? Well, you're already starting to see that now. When Trump took office, he cut thousands of jobs, hundreds of thousands of jobs. A lot of those jobs were jobs being held by women. Women held a lot of these office type administrative jobs. Well, you no longer need a person who knows how to type 120 words a minute when you have an AI system that's able to calculate complex mathematical equations at a fraction of the time it takes to type a paper, and then spit it out to you verbally. So a lot of these positions that were let go and shut down were administrative positions that a lot of women held. It's not at the point yet where, it's able to shut down jobs that men hold, like construction work, like certain type of engineering professions that require a hands-on experienced engineer or technician in, i.e., for example, electricians and plumbers and carpenters and stuff like that. So they've actually started off with administrative type jobs that primarily women hold. How will AI affect jobs and the economy? McKinsey, a global institute, says that at the global average level of adoption and absorption, and advances in AI by their implied by the simulation. AI has the profound impact to deliver additional global economic activity around 13 trillion in the foreseeable future. And by 2030, all of this is revolving around 2030. And by 2030, or about 16% higher cumulative GDP compared with today. So basically, AI is gonna produce 13 trillion more dollars in the future than what you jakes are producing. Why? Because AI doesn't need medical insurance. It doesn't need time off. It doesn't need FMLA, workman's comp. It doesn't need to be paid overtime. It doesn't need any of the things that a lot of these companies pay their employees to have. Remember, the scriptures say that money is the root of all evil. And the reason why these people are doing this is simply because of money, wealth. And by their lust and their greed for money and more power, they're producing more and more evils in the world. Reading on with the article, this amounts to 1.2% additional GDP growth per year if delivered. This impact would compare well with that of other general purpose technologies through history. This will mainly come from the substitution of labor by automation and increased innovation in products and services. So they're going to replace your labor by automation. And what I mean by automation, AI and robotic systems. They're making it such that even with the depopulation of the earth, they're putting in place for their future a means to continually maintain a productive work environment. And this is a pretty good article, but nonetheless, the ultimate end result is you jakes not having jobs. The ultimate end result is to have you jakes not in their society. And if you are in their society, there's certain things that you're going to have to take to maintain your position within this society. And one of those things is what we call the MOTB, which is the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip. These things have got to be said, and they've got to be known, because that's one of the great prophecies that needs to come to pass. This MOTB, the mark of the beast, the RFID microchip, which will be controlled and maintained by AI. And that's what they're not telling you. They're not telling you the underlying reasons as to why certain technologies have got to be in place. And it's going to get to the point where when they shut this system down, and it's going to be shut down because they need this great reset. There's going to be craziness going on in the earth. There will be evils going on in the earth. I mean, the evils are being multiplied now, but when the MOTB comes to pass, a lot of people aren't going to know how to react to this, but you were warned of these things. You were warned that these things are happening right before y'all. Even with this epistle, even with the other brothers of GMS in their epistles, and those men who teach the same doctrine and truth and sincerity, their epistles are warning you people of this system that's being woken up, that's being put in place. I just did a video where YouTube is requiring your ID. Well, that's going to be controlled by a AI system. So everything is coming together in terms of what this devil is trying to put in place. And you Jakes are just simple in this. You're not paying attention. And when these things happen, don't look for the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, to be there for you. As a matter of fact, don't even look for Yahweh Shem Yahushai to be there for you. Because while there was yet a place of repentance open to you, you despised it. I can't tell you how many people have run across the videos of other brothers teaching these things and didn't lay it to heart. I can't tell you how many people have walked past camps and didn't even consider what was going on because you were stuck in what you wanted to do. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 11, then said Yahweh Shem Yahushai unto me, pray not for this people for their good. Don't pray for these people for their good because, again, while the doors of repentance was open unto them, they despised it. Here it is, we're telling them about this AI system that is being put in place, whether they like it or not, that is going to control their world. And without Yahweh Shem Yahushai as your fortress or your refuge, a lot of you Jakes are just going to crumble and fall right into place. You Jakes are going to fall right in order. And when I mean you Jakes, I'm talking about those who survived the wars, who survived the famines, who survived, the beasts that's being taken out of their place. For those who escape those things and accept this MOTB, nuclear destruction is waiting for you. At that point, you're just going to be fucking fuel for the fire. So Yahweh Shem Yahushai is saying, don't pray for these people. Neither lift up a cry. I may have that, in my list of precepts, but don't pray for these people for their good. Because when the doors of repentance was opened unto them, they despised it. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 14 and verse 12. When they fast, I will not hear their cry. And when they offer burnt offerings and an oblation, I will not accept them, but I will consume them by the sword and by the famine and by the pestilence. And all of these things are coming. The sword, the famine, and the pestilence are upon you. A sword is being sharpened. And that sword is the wicked. That sword is being sharpened. Every day, these Edomites are seeing their world crumble, and they need a face to blame it on, and it's you Jakes. They need a name to blame it on, and it's you niggas. They're not going to take blame upon themselves. They're going to blame shift. They're going to blame you, when in fact it was their people who did it to them. And there's going to be a civil war. And you Jakes are just going to be stuck right up in the fucking middle of it and not know what to do. Yay. Yahweh Shem Yahushai ain't playing with you people. Let me see. The book of Sirach, chapter 12 and verse 3. There can no good come to him that is always occupied in evil. And this devil has devised an evil device, and that's his AI system. And a lot of you Jakes are going to fall right in line with it. Nor to him that is given no alms. So as long as you Jakes are occupied in evil, you're going to be taken by that evil. Yahweh Shem Yahushai refers to Yasharallah as a delicate woman. And a lot of you Anyhow, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. My mom's going somewhere else with it. But, a lot of you Jakes are going to be caught up in this evil. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 14, going back to verse 13. Then said I, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai power, behold, the prophets say unto them, ye shall not see the sword, neither shall you see famine, but I will give you assured peace in this place. And that's what these false prophets are telling the people. These false prophets are saying that the pestilences and the swords and, the economical collapse and all these things isn't happening around you. Because they weren't given the spirit of prophecy. So they're not going to tell you a prophecy. They're not going to tell you of prophetic things that are coming to pass. I could think of one camp right off the cuff that has changed its stance on the MOTB numerous times. And in each time, there's always been a sense of doubt, and his congregation continues to follow him, even though, the information is out there, even though they can visually see which way the things are going. But Yahweh Hashem Yahushai has these men and women spiritually, unaware. They are spiritually discerned to what's going on in the world. And what's happening is going to trap them, and AI is going to eat them up. Hey, man. Yahweh Hashem Yahushai said, I will laugh at your calamity, But, hey, let me see. I can go on with the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14. But, yeah, I ended off on that, what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of meat on Jeremiah, chapter 14 that we could definitely get into. But the point of the matter is that I wanted to bring out is that AI is about to consume the people here in Babylon the Great, to the point where, either you bow down to it or you don't. And those who don't have the hedge of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai about them will bow down to AI and the beast system. AI, artificial intelligence, is just the brains of what they want the beast system to be empowered by. And a lot of you Jakes are going to fall prey into it. So if you want to continue, to read the article at your own leisure, it's at nextforward.edu. And the title of the article reads, How Will Artificial Intelligence Change the World? It's a pretty good read, if that's your thing. And and so with that, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakaha, Kodash, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.